Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another full episode of Upon Further Review. Today, we are going to discuss the unfortunately controversial topic of face masks in public. The coronavirus has exploded with the second wave across the country. There are states now considering going back into lockdown. Cases are on the rise every day. We're setting new records every day. And there's been one battle that has gone on from the beginning of all of this is the idea of face masks. Are they effective? Should they be mandated? If so, where? While in public or only in private businesses? Cities and states have been battling over this, and it's become a left wing, right wing, Democrat versus Republican issue, unfortunately. We have the White House. We have failed leadership in the country, first and foremost. I try to be as neutral as possible, but we have the White House coming out and saying things like, we don't want science to determine when we reopen schools. We don't want science to play a role. We don't want to listen to Dr. Fauci. We don't want to listen to experts. We don't want to listen to the Centers on Disease Control. And it's really causing the coronavirus to spiral out of control in the country and possibly threatening to take the entire year from us as we all end up going right back into lockdown. And the question for today is it the place of the government really to mandate these masks? For me personally, I'm a little torn because I'm always on the rights of the individual, and I hope people use, their best and sound judgment when it comes to these things. I don't believe that masks should be mandated in public, period, like literally to walk outside to my mailbox. But when it comes to private businesses, the government absolutely has the right to regulate those, whether you're inside a Walmart or a restaurant or a bar or what have you. That is, no one disputes the fact that these are things that government gets to regulate. I wear my mask of my own free volition. I think it's a smart and intelligent thing to do. Anybody who studies and understands, it doesn't take rocket science to understand the benefit of wearing a mask in public, how it helps prevent the spread from person to person. And we sit here and we see many of these memes, many of these pseudoscientists on Facebook, people who probably suck the science class. Now everybody's a damn expert on virology and talking about, oh well, the masks can't block the virus and the virus is too small, and look at what doctors and such are wearing to actually prevent infection. And it's not about a 100% effective rate. It's simply about the idea of preventing the spread from becoming overwhelming so that we are not setting new case records on a daily basis while trying to return to normal.
You hit the nail on the head when you talked about failed leadership. We come out seeing that Trump had just talked to Fauci for the first time in months. Dr. Fauci has reported to say that he has to walk a tightrope, to balance him trying to keep the country safe with also trying to keep a leash on Trump from going off the rails when he becomes critical of the policies and procedures that have been put in place by the federal government and also by, unfortunately, it seems to be the red states that just seem to wonder. I understand the debate of what the government can and cannot force. But let's be clear, the government enforces you to do things all the time, right? The government forces you to pay taxes. The government forces you to wear clothes outside the house. You can't just walk out outside the house butt naked. You can say, hey, I'm not hurting anybody, but you can't do it, right? There's laws and policies in place that the government enforces on us that someone could say, oh, that's my right if I want to do it, if I want to do it, right? This is an unprecedented event, right? This is not just a national emergency, a worldwide emergency. And when you come to look at how other countries, when they say common sense things like, hey, we're gonna as a country mandate, wearing masks when you're going out to be around a bunch of people because it's common sense. You see that the curve of the virus has flattened in those countries, and then you look at America, where now the EU is issuing a travel ban. Well, remember when we were issuing travel bans, not letting people from China and other places coming here in Italy. Now all of a sudden, the whole EU is issuing travel bans, like because they can't get their They can't even agree on putting a simple mask in your face. Look, it sucks. No one wants to wear the mask, right? No one wants to have that thing on their face, smelling your breath all day. You know, sometimes it's hard to breathe when it's hot outside and it's just uncomfortable. We get it. No one likes it, but it's not even to me it's more of a civic duty to protect your neighbor, because what we know is this: masks help prevent and curtail the spread of infection. It doesn't 100% prevent it. Nobody has said they 100% prevent it. But what they have said and what the science shows is that masks help reduce the infection rate. And for me, this should be 100% compliance. People were out there protesting and throwing fits that when the government did the shutdown, that they wanted to get back and go back to normal. Well, here the government saying trying to let you go back to normal and just trying to make it do it as safe as possible. And it's just the silly thing of putting a piece of cloth around your face, and this is all we understand is temporary measures until we can get a grapple on the virus. People can't seem to understand. You have people getting tossed out of restaurants and getting tossed out of stores, and you're acting like you're acting to get asking them to give you your left kidney or something like that. It's totally it's really sad that people can't sit there and just use their brains and say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna do this for the good of the country. I'm really gonna do it for the good of the world, and we're all gonna be in together to fight this. This should not be a controversial topic. This should really even should be a partisan topic. But unfortunately, that's what we had. America's so divisive today that something that will literally save people's lives, the simple thing, the common sense thing that everybody can do, people refuse to do it. You have people out here, like you said, Troy, spouting out, saying, acting like they're scientists and saying masks don't help, masks don't help. It's the common sense thing. I want everybody to take a spray bottle, grab a cloth, right? Spray in the air, see how all that mist goes. Then spray into the cloth and see how far it goes. Yeah, maybe a few aerosol particles get through, but the vast majority gets absorbed by the mass, and that's all that they're saying. It's going to help people to stop the spread, and it helps people in two ways. One, primarily, if you're sick, it helps catch the virus from getting out of your mouth and out of your nose to someone else. And B, a tertiary effect is if you are healthy and someone does have the virus, at least provide some kind of barrier. Anything is better than nothing.
There are numerous countries that have gone through lockdown, come back out, and they're back up and running in full swing. Heck, the European Union's reopening. Japan, China, they're reopening. And some people may be skeptical of the data coming out of countries like China, but the reality is they're reopening. And they're reopening because they followed orders, they listened to the science, they listened to their leaders, they had strong leadership on these issues, and they managed to get the coronavirus under control. They wore the masks, and now they get to enjoy their reopenings as we are now facing head on with ultimately a pending tragedy, if you really think about it. The numbers are staggering. As it stands, we are approaching 140,000 deaths from coronavirus and 3.5 million cases. Now, people want to play the percentage games. Oh, it's less than one, what have you. I sat there and watched Betsy DeVos in the White House talk about reopening schools this fall and how it'll only affect, some tiny percent of school children. That's nearly 15,000 school children dying. 15,000 school children nationwide. You're A-OK with 15,000 deaths. That's amazing. Right now, at 140,000, that's more deaths than every armed conflict the U.S. has gotten involved with since World War II. Vietnam, war in Iraq, war in Afghanistan, Korean War, Operation Desert Storm, all of them. More deaths than all of them combined. There are more people have died in this than died in World War One from the United States. This is a catastrophe that we are trying to normalize on a daily basis, trying to downplay, working desperately to minimize the devastating impacts that it has. That's the reality. Everything has become partisan. Everything. There's nothing sacred about anything. We're just trying to protect human life here, and we're doing so within reasonable measures. Reasonable measures. Wear a face mask when you're going to the store. The social distancing guidelines and the face mask guidelines are designed to minimize the spread of germs from person to person, because many people can be asymptomatic carriers, meaning you do not show any symptoms, yet you're carrying COVID. You can be perfectly healthy. I know people who tested positive and they're like, yeah, lost taste or had minor things and they can move on. But the reality is, you're spreading the disease far and wide, and it's going to cause deaths in a massive scale. These are, and the people who are dying from coronavirus, these are not, we have these myths. We talk about things like how many people the flu kills, how many people common cold kills. And we're talking about immunocompromised people. People think about people with one foot in the grave, already on death's door, 99-year-old people fighting off cancer, finally, succumbing to the flu virus. No, this is teens. These are people in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, people who otherwise would have a full and long life ahead of them, but they have asthma, or they have a history of upper respiratory infections, or they just got the bad luck of the draw. We are playing a lotto of death by not taking coronavirus seriously. And it's quite infuriating that we can get people to do the right thing. I'm a firm believer in the rights and the liberties of the citizen. But it is moments like this, man, where I have no rebuttal for the outright ignorance that I see spewing out of people as people pile up are doing their best to pile up in thousands and spread this virus everywhere. We see it. National figures. I think the president retweeted Chuck Woolery. My goodness, didn't know he was still around, talking about how they're lying and the evidence is not as such. And then, a couple of days later, my son's in the hospital and suffering from coronavirus. People, this is very real. And human compassion makes me feel bad for this child or this son. His son could be older, might not even actually be a child because Chuck Woolery is old. But my point is, it makes me feel for people who are dealing with this. There are people who have mocked this virus, downplayed it, and have died from it just a couple of weeks later. Like, it's why does it take this? Why are we fighting and arguing over petty things when we are facing a tragedy 10 times nearly greater, or more than 10 times greater than 9/11? We're facing a tragedy worse than armed conflicts that we have engaged in. This is everything that is wrong with the mentality of us as a nation, where it's the individual over the collective good every single time. We're not trying to share your money. We're not trying to share your house. We're not trying to take from your property. We're not trying to violate your rights. We're showing you evidence in science that wearing this face mask can help the public and prevent us from hitting 100,000 deaths. Here we are, 140 and counting with no end in sight.
I think people just, there's some people just don't get it. I won't forget, I was watching back when Trump had that stupid rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They're saying that, first of all, they're saying that it's safe, you can come, no mask mandate, you can come in and we're going to have a good old time. We're going to be packed full of people. One, not that many people came up because people are very sour to Donald Trump at this point, even his base. Two, the governor of Oklahoma was there proclaiming that it's safe, don't worry about it. I'm not wearing a mask, blah, blah, blah. He got coronavirus. Now he tested positive for coronavirus, foot and mouth, right? And third, so when they actually got there, they were interviewing some of the people that were actually in the crowd. And I'll never forget this. One of the guys they interviewed that was a Trump supporter, one of the few that actually showed up, was a guy who said he lost someone close to him to coronavirus. And then I'm sitting there, well, if you lost somebody close to you with the coronavirus, why are you out here in this crowd of people without a mask? And they asked him, I was like, don't you worry about wearing a mask? He's like, well, I did lose someone close to me, but I can't tell if it's the truth or not because who knows and blah, blah, blah. The lies that people tell themselves to justify this idiotic rebellion against mask wearing, I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what part of the human soul or psyche that something so stupid and something so such a catastrophe could come out of someone's head. Like it's serious. This is life and death, people. And here's the thing, and here's what I'm really scared of. Donald Trump and the Trump administration announced that they're going to stop funneling the hospital data through the CDC. What they're going to do is funnel the hospital data straight to the administration. And here's the problem. Trump has said several times, well, maybe we shouldn't test as much, or maybe the numbers are, you can't listen to numbers. Numbers are inflated. Numbers are this, numbers that. He has been openly campaigning to try to curtail the numbers, to actually make the pandemic look less deadly and less of an issue than it actually is. And now that he has mandated that this hospital data has to come instead of through the CDC, who was giving you the actual real numbers, straight to him, you know that the only reason to do that is so you can fudge the statistics. And that is very, very, very dangerous. And that leaves us with, what we're going to look at going forward. Right now, if everybody remembers in New York, they were piling people in the back of refrigerated tractor trailers. The morgues were full, they ran out of place, they were stacking bodies in the back of a tractor trailer, right? Check this out. Right now, the state of Texas, and I believe it's the state of Louisiana, I'm not sure, but I know at least Texas, and it's in one other state that are actually doing the same exact thing. They've ran out of space and they're ordering these refrigerated tractor trailers to stack bodies in. Imagine your loved one, imagine your mom, your father, your sister, your brother, your child can't even have the decency of being sent to a funeral home because they're all full and they're stacked sitting inside a tractor trailer because some idiot next to you won't wear a mask. This kind of thinking has to stop. We have to come together and be able to figure out how to get rid of this perceived issue of a personal right. It's not that deep. It's a damn mask. And while people are out here suffering, people are out here losing loved ones, people are out here, even if you get the virus and you do recover, some people are still emaciated to this day. I'm talking about long-term ramifications from dealing with this virus. I'm talking about having confusion, loss of train of thought, stumbling around, trouble breathing. These things have been, I'm talking about health and happening to healthy young adults, right? It's just this common, misconception that hey, I'm young, I'll be all right. If I get it, my body will truck through it. That is not always the case. Yeah, the numbers may be on your side, but you don't want to be that one. You don't want to be that one laid up in the hospital bed with a tube down your throat. People have to really, I think, people don't understand the gravity of it, and it's a selfish part of human nature until they themselves have been put in it. And by that I mean it might not just be you, but a loved one, right? Not until you see firsthand and witness and be a part of the suffering firsthand does that light bulb tend to click off for some individuals. And that is a shame. I think, and these will be the same people, that tend to not want to wear masks and tend to ones that say all lives matter. Well, apparently they don't matter because you're out here spreading the virus. You probably don't even know it.
Florida just set a record high in daily coronavirus deaths. And this article is in reference of this past Tuesday. 132 lives lost to the virus, 132 people dying daily. If there was a war being fought with 132 people, soldiers dying daily, tragedies, mass shootings, things that we build memorials for. Where's the coronavirus memorial going to be in the nation? A national mall? Like, this is a epic, huge, devastating problem. I don't want to make light of the idea of personal rights, but the reality is this. This is a war that is being fought with an enemy that we cannot see, an enemy few understand because of the duration of how fast this swept over the entire world. We are not the only country dealing with this. We can take a look at the European Union. We can look at Asia. We can look at multiple other countries, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and we can trust and believe in our scientists or we cannot. This is one of those things where we used to watch disaster movies. I don't care if it's Godzilla, Twister, whatever it may be. When the scientists come into the room speaking based on their history, their knowledge, their studies, the actual sciences of how this world works, when they come in and speak, we demand perfection of them. If anything is a hair out of place, we raise eyebrows and throw the entire piece of information out of it. Yet we will allow politicians who didn't even win the popular vote in some cases to sit here and just do whatever they want to fly in the face of actual knowledge and science. It's insane. I used to watch those disaster movies and I could not believe it That makes no sense. No way that we would kick the scientists out the room, the people who know better. No way this would happen in real life, but you can see it. Here we are. Dr. Fauci has served under Republican and Democratic presidents because he is the nation's and the world's foremost leading scientist when it comes to pathological events, virology, and what have you. And we are trying to discredit this man. We have the White House actively running, you know, opposition research and statements through the media to discredit this man as if he hasn't been here through red and blue presidents alike, because his duty is to serve the nation as best as he can. Yet we want to question every single word that's come out of his mouth and act like everything he has to say makes no sense. We want to tell us that the Centers for Disease Control, the government entities that we have to study these things, don't know what they're talking about. People who dedicated their lives, numerous doctorates, numerous masters, all sorts of years of research and study, they don't know what they're talking about. But yet, the governor of Georgia, who just sued the mayor of Atlanta over masks. We want to sit here and pretend like these people know it's best. And I tell you what, I'll trust the doctors over any politician. If I get sick, don't drag me down to the Capitol and grab a politician from behind their desk. Take me to doctors. Take me to scientists. Take me to people who know what they're doing and are who sworn an oath to first do no harm and to do their best. Because no, we're people and people are not perfect. The protections against coronavirus are not perfect. They're not designed to be a 100% guaranteed. You'll never get it if you wear a mask and stay 6 feet apart. But they're designed to slow this down. In Florida, 54 hospital IC units are at capacity. I know down in Houston, just a week ago, ICUs to capacity. And mind you, when ICUs are capacity for coronavirus, that affects other things. That affects people coming in with car accidents. That affects people having heart attacks. That affects people with any other issue in life that you may end up in the intensive care unit in the emergency room of a hospital. We are overwhelming our medical resources, and we are giving no thought to how these things will continue forward. You're demanding schools to be open. You know how the kids are already, just little germ carriers in the most adorable sense, of course. But you're going to demand that they sit together for 7 hours a day in kindergartens, all the way up to 12th grade, passing around school lunches, lockers, locker rooms, dorms, all these things. There's no way you can keep the virus contained at that point. We are behaving as if everything is a lie and whatever you believe is right. And that is not the way to move forward as a nation. We have people who study these things, believe in it. And if you, before you open your mouth with an opinion, do the research from legitimate doctors and scientists. There is a scientific method for how you can judge your hypothesis on these things. Do mass network? Look at the science, look at the research, look at the empirical data of other countries. There's no reason to see half of this meme-filled world, oh man, the virus doesn't exist at protests and doesn't exist at Walmart, doesn't exist at Home Depot. No one said it doesn't. For the protests that went on, Mike, I think we mentioned this in one of our past pods. We expected to see a rise in coronavirus. But mind you, those were protests. Those are people that have no disregard for whatever your local government, because they're upset and they're angry. We had protests against racial violence, protests against racism. We also had people protest against the shutdown and mask laws, some of them often armed. All of these things are going to lead to spikes in coronavirus. If you have to use tear gas to get people off the streets, obviously they were not worried about coronavirus in that moment. These things did lead to increases in coronavirus. We also had people reopening despite setting new records in daily cases. These actions by politicians led to an increase and spike in coronavirus. And the reality is, at this point, Mike, I don't even believe that sports are going to resume as normal. Already in the NBA bubble, you have, there's a hotline for people violating the rules. Some moron walks out to pick up, food to the delivery outside the bubble, defeating the entire purpose of it. They're going to bust that thing up before they even get a game played. People are going to come in with the virus. They're going to, especially because they're rich. These people are millionaires and they do not want to be limited or restricted. Somebody's going to go to the club. Somebody's going to go get wings from their favorite wing spot. Somebody's going to go party and they're going to knock that down. Training camp, the NFL, all of these things are in play. We're not even going to have college students on campus yet. They're going to try to get college football. We think we're going to get people in stadiums. We think we're going to be able to get bubbles with hundreds of people per team, by the way, inside. No chance. If we can't even wear a mask to a grocery store, it's not a hard ask. Nobody's asking for your left arm. But the idea of covering your face in public, not in your car, what have you, when you step out the car and you head inside the Walmart, cover your face. Now Walmart's, naturally requiring this. Costco always has been. Those are pretty much the only two places I've been as far as going out just to go shop. But it's insane. The reality is this is the political climate of our country. Culture war is all the right wing has at this moment. All of the individual ideals, the virtues, and what have you, they're all fly in the face of our current occupant of the White House. They fly in the face of the words actually coming out of their mouths. We don't believe in any of these things because it's pure hypocrisy across the board. Culture war is all they have. The memes you see floating around, it's a mask today. Tomorrow it'll be marking us with numbers. Just these illogical jumps, as if there isn't a global catastrophe happening. No one just came out of left field with the masks. Hey guys, for no reason, just put these things on. The memes. Next, they're going to tell you to wear blindfolds. Next, they're going to tell you it's insane. It's all they have. And there are people who are even independents. There are people on both sides. I've seen darn sure we're in a red state here. People are definitely wearing their masks because people don't want to die and people don't want their loved ones to die. Even if I am healthy, Von Miller was one of the most prominent NFL players who've been tested positive for coronavirus that we're publicly aware of, still talks about the impact on his lungs. This is a pro athlete, man who can pass a conditioning test when most of America cannot. Rudy Gobert, prominent NBA player, still talks about the impacts, and they're fine, and they're alive, and they're healthy, they will survive, but they still talk about the impacts of coronavirus. Yet all we can do in social media and on the news is downplay the impact and the threat of this virus to the maximum extent possible at the expense of human lives, and it's disgusting. I have no patience for it anymore.
People really underplay the effect that this virus has on people, so-called healthy individuals. And I think also people have been downplaying how deadly this virus is. They've been quick to point out, see, look, the death rate has gone down. It's gone down. Look, right? And people don't understand that there's a lag there, right? So when we did actually shut down as a country and we actually flattened the curve for a bit, right? You have to understand that the death rate is going to lag. The drop in death rate you're seeing is from that effort right there, and it lags 3 to 8 weeks. And let me explain that lag to you. So Johnny goes out. Johnny, is not wearing his mask, and Johnny goes out with a bunch of people, and Johnny gets sick, right? Johnny, it takes a week to 2 weeks before he even knows he's sick, right? Johnny then at that point is sick for a week, and he gets progressively worse. And after a week after that, he says, all right, let me go to the hospital. Johnny goes in the hospital and is on a ventilator for 2 weeks. Johnny dies after that. Then they have to go and get Johnny sent to a morgue. Johnny has to have an official cause of death ruled, has to have that filed with the state. Well, mind you, during the pandemic where all this stuff takes a lot longer, right? And then that has to be reported back up. That could easily be a 8+ week process, right? So what you're seeing now, when people saw, now it's starting to, the death rates are ticking back up. And what people were celebrating back then was all fruits of effort that were happening months prior, right? Now we're going to start to reap what we sow when it comes to a climbing death rate due to people out there with Memorial Day and 4th of July out there having mass pool parties, lake parties, people just cookouts, whatever you can imagine, where everything you weren't supposed to be doing, people just forgot and said, screw it, I'm going to do it. And now you're going to start seeing the ramifications of that, and you're going to start seeing the death rate climb. And it's already climbing. People are talking about how low it was. It wasn't even that low to begin with. Because if you compare the death rate of the United States to other developed countries like the UK and France and Germany, their death rates are roughly around they will range between 3 and at the high end, 8 or 9 deaths per 100,000 for the coronavirus, right? America is sitting at 40 deaths per 100,000. That is egregious. Why are we sucking? America used to think that we are the shining pillar of example to the world. Everybody can look at America for the right thing to do. Our moral compass is always pointing north. That has unfortunately changed. People are no longer from a world stage looking to us for leadership because we have a joke of a leadership, not just in the White House, but throughout Congress, right? And it is a responsibility for us to take it on as an individual to protect your brother, protect your common man, protect your sister, protect children. Even if they're not your children, no one wants to see people die. No one, right? So it's not that hard to get. Well, I went out a couple weekends ago. I got on my bike. I rode over to 7-Eleven, wanted to pick something up. I got all the way to 7-Eleven and got to the door and realized, like, crap, I forgot my mask, right? What did I do? I got back on my bike. I rode home, got my mask, got back on my bike, rode back to 7-Eleven, walked into the store. Why? Because even if, right, nobody in there had it, what if I had it? What if I gave it to somebody? I don't know how people can sit there and say with a clear conscience that, you know what, if I had it, I'm one of those asymptomatic people, well, screw it. They get it, they get it. Like, and they die like that. I can't understand. I would feel guilty for years knowing that if I had it and I could have done something to stop it. It's one of those things where you didn't know, you did everything right and you still got it, or you still might have given it to me thinking you did everything right. I'm not talking about those cases. I'm talking about the cases where you were willfully negligent and chose not to do what's best for everybody in this country. You got someone sick. I don't understand how you can live with yourself at night. I understand if someone dies as a result of your actions, how you can just sit there and just roll over in bed and go to sleep and not and be fine with that. It's time for people to wake up. It's time for people to say, and I really think, and what I'm really liking is that people are starting to hold other people accountable. I'm seeing on social media that somebody doesn't have a mask on. People are starting to get checked for that. And I applaud them. You know what? I applaud them, right? Because look, this is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than the U.S. It's the world at stake, right? And I don't mean to sound so doomsdayish, but we're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of lives, right? That can easily be saved if people adopt a simple thing like wearing a mask. You know, I think people didn't have a problem with washing their hands. That was okay when they tell you to wash your hands all the time and social distancing. For a while people were okay with that, but wearing the mask, oh, that's it. I can't do that one, right? It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid, right? So don't be stupid. If you're out here listening to this and you're not wearing a mask, don't be stupid. Put one on. It's not that hard. No one likes to do it, but do it because it's for the common good, right? So I really hope that people, if you see somebody or someone, it's easier to talk to someone that's out here wilding out, not wearing a mask. Talk to them, be real with them, share some figures with them. Share the science with them. Try to convince them because can have a cascading effect, right? At this point we obviously have to be our brothers' keepers because some of our brothers out here wilding out. So my plea to you and my plea to everybody is just use your common sense, listen to the science, and wear your damn mask.
In closing, I remember a few years ago during the height of the migrant crisis in about 2016, as we transitioned into the current White House administration, there was an analogy going around, a meme, if you will. And it was along the lines of imagine there's a bowl of Skittles, 100 Skittles there, and two or three of them would kill you. Would you stick your hand in there and just welcome all the Skittles? Would you stick your hand in there and grab a handful? And they were referring to the idea that there were terrorists and dangerous refugees coming in amongst the groups of just normal refugees that were flowing into the country. Well, here we are in the year 2020, and just simply wearing a mask and coronavirus and dangerous, there's a bowl of Skittles. Most of them are wearing masks and they're safe, but there's one, two, or three that will cause death for yourself, your children, your loved ones, your family members. Would you stick your hand in that bowl? I have the exact same analogy for all of those people who are refusing to wear those masks. It makes no sense to risk death for your loved ones for such a simple issue. People want to be pseudoscientists. People want to calculate the data. People want to do everything but listen to the actual scientists. Listen to listen to the very things that we have built in the Centers of Disease Control to contain and handle and deal with issues of this magnitude. We've never before in our lifetime seen anything like this. This coronavirus has swept over the world. It has claimed 140,000 lives. We have memorials to less deaths on our nation, and that's not to undermine those deaths. Let me be perfectly clear. But the reality is, this is a tragedy unfolding before our very eyes. That there are people who are trying to normalize just for the sake of their reelection, just for the sake of looking like they're doing a good job, just for the sake of stoking a culture war that benefits them politically. People are dying, children are dying, healthy people who would otherwise be alive are dying. And even those who survive, there are people who survive after being on a ventilator for a week or two. It's a life changing experience for these people. There are numerous accounts in the media. Go find one, go talk to one, go read some of the articles. It's just a Google search away. In a world where information is at our fingertips, we are being overwhelmed by intentional misinformation, willful malice, seeking to cause harm for political gain. And that has to stop. Do the real research, listen to the real professionals. Don't go. And one final point, I can't stand some of these articles being shared from just the dregs of the internet. Goddamn, I mean, you gotta do eight, go to page 12 on a Google search and find some obscure website that has two visitors, and people will share this across Facebook. Hey, look at this information I found. We have people sharing all sorts of conspiracies and memes, and trust me, the government has plenty in its history that makes it untrustworthy on issues. But the reality is this is the best we have. This is the best we got. This is the best we got moving forward. Real information, real knowledge. Use it, learn from it, wear the damn mask.